You know how people always say, trust your gut? I ignored mine. For months, I kept telling myself I was just being paranoid, that all couples hit that weird, quiet patch now and then. He was probably stressed, tired, busy with work. Maybe I was being needy. Maybe I was projecting. God, I even Googled how to stop being jealous in a healthy relationship. What a joke. But the truth is, my gut knew something before I did. The signs were all there, but they were quiet, like whispers. In a loud room, he started turning his phone face down. Changed his passcode twice in 1 week. He never used to wear cologne. Then suddenly he smelled like wood smoke and citrus every time he came home late. I asked him once where he got it from. He said it was a free sample from the office. Right, sure. There was a time I would have believed that, but that time had passed. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some big confrontation or lipstick on the collar moment. It was a Tuesday. Just a boring average Tuesday. I'd come home from work early because my manager let us out after a team lunch. I walked into our flat and it was quiet. Too quiet. He'd left his phone charging on the kitchen counter, which never happened. He guards that thing like it's got nuclear codes on it. I wasn't even planning to check. I swear. I walked right past it to grab some water, but then it buzzed. Just once. And curiosity? Well, that's a wicked little beast. So I glanced. Just glanced. And there it was. A message from someone saved under the name Charlie, work. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. Same time tomorrow? With a little red heart at the end. Red. Not even subtle. I stared at it for a good minute, heart thumping so hard I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to feel something. Rage, heartbreak, betrayal. But I didn't. Not then. I felt steady. Cold. Clinical, almost. I didn't scroll through his messages. I didn't throw the phone or cry into my sleeve like they do in the movies. I just exhaled, walked back to the sofa, and sat down with a weird sort of calm in my chest. Because that was the moment I realized something. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to scream or give him the satisfaction of knowing. He'd gotten under my skin. No, I was going to do something far more satisfying. He thought he was clever, sneaky, untouchable. But he forgot one thing. I'm not the kind of woman you cheat on and walk away from untouched. I'm the kind you cheat on, and then regret for the rest of your miserable life. I didn't cry that night. I didn't even tell my friends. Instead, I opened my laptop, started making a list. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I could take. Revenge. Isn't loud. Sometimes it's whispered between the clink of wine glasses and sealed in an envelope marked Bon Voyage. By the next morning, I already had the first pieces in place. I didn't rage text him. I didn't even change how I acted. I kissed him on the cheek like usual, asked if he wanted oat milk on the shopping list, and watched him fumble with some excuse about working late again. It was laughable, honestly. He looked so proud of his little lie, so smug with his double life. It took everything in me not to smirk. I went into full project mode that afternoon. Step 1. Figure out who Charlie, work, really was. Spoiler alert, her name wasn't Charlie and she didn't work with him. She was tagged in one of his mate's Instagram stories, standing a bit too close, wearing his jacket, drinking from his pint. Her real name was Bella. Of course it was. A girl like that always has a name like Bella. I didn't stalk her. I investigated. There's a difference. She posted everything. Where she got her nails done, what cafe she was at, even the exact booth they'd shared at a secret bar. I mapped out every post for the last month and matched it to the nights he told me he was working late or grabbing a pint with the boys. Every lie left a digital breadcrumb, and I collected them all like trophies. Now I know what. You might be thinking, why not just confront him? End it? Move on? Because that's what he expected. That's what people like him count on. Quick exits and clean breaks. They never expect you to stay calm, to stay smart, to stay. They never think you'll weaponize patience. But me? I don't do emotional chaos. I do calculated exits. So I sent a message to Bella. Polite, casual. From a fake account, obviously. Said I was organizing a surprise dinner for my boyfriend. Her boyfriend, too, apparently. Gave her a date, time, and location. Told her he'd be so happy to see her. She replied in under 5 minutes with, "Aw, that's so sweet. Count me in X." Of course she did. Then I turned to him. Told him I'd booked us a table at this fancy little place he'd been dying to try. Waitlist only, but I said I pulled some strings. Watched his eyes light up like I'd just handed him a new PlayStation. He kissed me and said I was the best girlfriend ever. I smiled and said, "I know." The next 2 days were strangely peaceful. I kept up the act, laughing at his jokes, asking about his day, pretending not to notice the text notifications that popped up while he was in the shower. He was already planning whatever lie he'd need to tell Bella to skip their usual meetup. He had no idea she'd be at the dinner, too. Front row seat to the circus. Now, I wasn't just planning a confrontation. That would be too simple. No, I was planning a performance. And every great performance needs a grand finale. That's when the idea hit me. Plane tickets, 2 of them. 1 for him, 1 for her. Matching. One way. Printed on thick, glossy card like they'd just won a romantic holiday. Except the destination wasn't paradise. It was a tiny airport in the middle of absolutely nowhere. No return flights, no Ubers nearby. Just a desolate little runway with vending machines and disappointment. And the best part? I used his credit card to pay for it all. He once bragged about how I didn't understand the thrill of high-level pettiness. He was right, because now I've mastered it. The restaurant was intimate, low lighting, crystal glassware. The kind of place people post on their stories with captions like "date night with my fave." I'd booked a table for 4, not 3, just in case someone brought a +1 or Divine Karma wanted a seat too. I wore red. Not just any red. I mean the red dress. The one he always said made me look a bit much. The one I knew made me look like I knew exactly what I was doing. I curled my hair, did my makeup soft but sharp, and sprayed the perfume he bought. Me last Christmas, expensive, sweet, and ironically his ex's favorite scent. He arrived first, late, but first. Typical. He smiled like nothing was off, kissed my cheek, complimented my dress, then subtly tried to check his phone under the table. I caught the name on the lock screen. B. I said nothing. Just offered him a sip of wine and told him we'd be having company. His smile faltered. Just a flicker. Company? He asked, adjusting his collar. I said, casually sipping. Someone you've been dying to see. His fingers tightened around the stem of his glass, and before he could spit out another excuse, she walked in. Bella. She looked exactly like I expected. Pretty in that curated way, hair too glossy to be accidental, lips overlined just a touch, and a dress that was trying very hard not to scream, "Mistress." Her eyes scanned the room and landed on us, and for a brief second I saw the flicker of confusion, followed quickly by the realization. To her credit, she didn't bolt. "Hi," I said brightly, waving her over. "So glad you could make it." He looked like someone had just hit him with a frying pan, silent, pale. Swallowed about 3 times without saying a word. Bella pulled out a chair slowly, like it might explode. She looked at him, then at me, then back again. This isn't what I thought it'd be. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I said, setting down my wine. "Just not what you were expecting?" She blinked. "You're his girlfriend," I answered. "Fiancé, actually. At least until about 4 days ago. You must be work." Her face fell like a house of cards. He opened his mouth. "Look, I can explain." "Shh," I said, holding up a hand. "Let's just eat. The main course is emotional ruin, and it's best served with duck confit." He looked like he might vomit. Bella looked like she wanted the earth to open up. I was serene. We ordered. They were too shocked to argue. We sat through starters in silence, the occasional clang of cutlery the only sound. I asked about her job, made small talk about the wine list, complimented the restaurant's music. He just sat there, stunned, sweat beading at his temple. I could see the calculations running in his head. How to fix it, how to twist it, how to spin this into something survivable. He didn't know I wasn't done, because after the plates were cleared, I reached into my handbag and pulled out a small, neatly folded envelope. Placed it gently between them, right in the middle of the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Your reward?" I smiled. He opened it first, squinting at the ticket inside. Bella leaned in. Their confusion morphed into full-blown panic. One-way flight?" she asked. Wait, where is this?" "Exactly," I said. "Middle of nowhere. Airport code barely exists. Paid for it with your card, darling. Thought it'd be poetic." His mouth opened. No words came out. "You two want to sneak around behind my back? Then you can go somewhere together. Literally. Go ahead. It's all paid for. Just don't come back." Bella stood up, stammering something that sounded like, "You're insane." I laughed. "No, love. Just very, very done." Bella's hand shook as she clutched the plane ticket, still trying to piece together the surreal reality she found herself in. Her voice was shaky now, no longer the confident, sultry tone I had heard over text messages and late-night phone calls. "You can't be serious," she stammered. This is insane." I leaned back in my chair, my gaze calm, almost clinical. "Oh, I'm serious. You didn't think I'd find out? Or did you just assume I was too stupid to notice?" He rubbed his face, fingers pressing into his eyes like he could will the situation away. "Can we just talk about this?" "Talk? About it?" I leaned forward, lowering my voice just enough to make sure he couldn't escape. "Let's talk. You cheated on me. With her. Do you need me to spell it out for you?" His face was flushed now, a mixture of anger and guilt, but mostly panic. The silence stretched, but the weight of what he had done felt like it was pushing down on the entire restaurant. No one was looking at us. They never do, not when the awkwardness becomes too much. But I could feel the eyes of the staff, the trying other diners, all pulling away from the unspoken chaos unfolding at our table. "I didn't want to hurt you," he finally managed, voice cracking slightly. "It was just... I made a mistake. She was... convenient?" I cut him off, the words dripping with bitterness. "Is that the word you were looking for? Convenient? Because I'm sure that's exactly how you saw it. You didn't want to hurt me. But here we are. This is what happens when you're too busy trying to have your cake and eat it too." Bella's eyes darted between us, the reality of her role in this slowly sinking in. I didn't know you were still together. I thought I'd just let you have him." I finished for her, my voice smooth but razor sharp. "How considerate. How very generous of you. You knew, Bella. You knew exactly what you were doing. Don't pretend to be the victim here." Her lips parted, but she didn't say anything else. She couldn't. And I could see the look on her face, the guilt, the dawning understanding that she wasn't the innocent girl caught up in some tragic love triangle. She was just as complicit as he was. I looked at him, and for a moment the quiet between us was almost suffocating. "Do you love her?" I asked. The question low, dangerous, loaded with 100 emotions I hadn't let myself feel until now. "Did you ever love me?" He didn't answer immediately. He just looked at me, eyes shifting away like he was trying to find a way to make it better. But there wasn't a way. There was no magic phrase that would undo what he'd done. "I didn't think it would get like this," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want you to find out this way." "No," I said, leaning forward again. "You didn't want to get caught. There's a difference." The silence hung for a beat, then Bella's voice sliced through it like a knife. "I never asked for any of this. You have no right." "Oh, I have every right," I said, cutting her off. "You don't get to play the innocent card when you've been sleeping with my boyfriend, behind my back. Don't talk to me about rights." The waiter came to check on us then, oblivious to the storm brewing at our table. He looked down at the plates in front of us and back up at the tension on our faces. "Would you like to order dessert?" he asked. I glanced at the two of them, still frozen in their seats, and then I smiled sweetly. No, thank you. We're fine. We've already had our fill of the truth tonight. I could almost hear their hearts beating faster as I sat back, sipping my wine with the kind of quiet satisfaction that only comes when you finally laid it all out there. No more pretending, no more games. I glanced at my phone, noting the time. You two should probably get going soon. The plane won't wait forever. He reached for his phone, perhaps to make some last-ditch effort to explain himself, but I stopped him with a raised hand. Don't bother, I said, my voice colder. Now. You've already said enough. Words don't fix this. You've got your ticket. Now go. Bella opened her mouth, but I stopped her with a glance. I'm not angry anymore, I said softly, almost like I was talking to myself. I was, but now I'm just glad you showed me who you really are. Both of you. He stood up first, then Bella, both of them awkwardly gathering their things. I stayed seated, watching them, feeling a strange sense of closure wash over me. Goodbye, Bella, I said, my voice steady, almost kind. And you, well, you can keep the dress, but not the man. With that, they left, awkwardly, quietly, with no more excuses, no more explanations. I sat there for a long moment after they were gone, letting the calm settle in. There was something oddly freeing about the whole thing. Something about knowing the truth, about seeing them walk away with nothing but each other and the weight of their own lies. I finished my wine, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. The quiet of the restaurant was replaced by the hum of my own thoughts. As the waiter cleared our plates, I could feel the lingering tension from the confrontation. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about what comes next. What happens when everything you thought you knew comes crashing down? I sat alone for a while, sipping my wine, the coolness of it almost soothing in contrast to the heat still simmering in my chest. They were gone, but the real work was just beginning. I pulled my phone from my bag and typed out a quick message. It's done. Everything's been taken care of. He's yours now. But remember, there's no going back. It wasn't an angry text, more of a warning, a gentle reminder that once you take a step into someone else's life, there's no reversing it. And no amount of apologies or sweet words would undo the damage done. The slate was wiped clean. My fingers hovered over the keys for a moment before I deleted it and put the phone down. This wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. I paid. The bill, the weight of the moment still pressing against me as I walked out of the restaurant. The cool night air hit my skin, the city alive around me, but for once I felt at peace. It was like the storm had passed, leaving nothing but calm behind. The next day, I found myself pacing my apartment, checking and rechecking the ticket I had bought with his credit card, the ticket to nowhere. There was no destination, no plan, beyond this one final act of closure. I didn't need the drama anymore. I didn't need the explanations. What I needed was the freedom to move on, to leave it all behind. No more strings, no more past. And then the doorbell rang. I wasn't surprised to see him standing there, his expression a mixture of regret and disbelief. His shirt was slightly untucked, his tie askew, like he'd rushed over as soon as he could. I need to talk to you, he said, voice low, pleading. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. There's nothing left to say. He pushed past me before I could respond, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His eyes darted around the apartment, probably looking for some clue to what I was thinking, to understand how this could have gone so wrong. Where's Bella? I asked flatly. Did she not want to come? He didn't answer immediately. His eyes flickered to the coffee table where the matching plane tickets were neatly laid out, and I could almost see the realization hit him, like a punch to the gut. The kind of punch that takes your breath away. I don't know what happened, he started, his voice quieter now, almost broken. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to? I echoed, incredulous. You don't get to say that. You don't get to not mean something like this. You did it, and now we're here. and there's no easy way to fix it. He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes downcast. I was confused. You and I thought we were drifting apart. And then she came along. And that's your excuse? I interrupted. You thought we were drifting apart, so you just gave up. You didn't think to talk to me? To try? He stayed silent, guilt hanging thick in the air between us. It was suffocating, but it didn't make me feel sorry for him. Not anymore. You stole from me, I said coldly, my eyes narrowing. You didn't just lie. You went behind my back and used my credit card to buy her a plane ticket, a one-way trip. For what? So you could run away together? He flinched, the reality of his actions hitting him hard. But still, he tried. I'll make it right. I'll pay you back. I'll fix this. No, I said firmly, stepping closer. You can't fix this. You can't undo what you did. What you took from me, I've already taken care of it. I bought that ticket because I knew it was the only thing that would make you see it. The consequences of your actions. You want to pay me back? Start by walking out the door and leaving me alone. The words hit him harder than I thought they would. He stood there for a moment, stunned, unsure of what to say next. But I didn't need him to say anything. The truth was already laid bare. You'll regret this, he muttered, his voice barely audible. I smiled, a faint, almost sad smile. Maybe. But I'll never regret making myself a priority. I'll never regret walking away from people who don't know how to treat me right. Without another word, he turned and walked out, the sound of his footsteps fading down the hall. I stood there for a long moment, watching the door, feeling the weight of the decision settle in. There was no more doubt, no more confusion. I was free. The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't need to explain anything to anyone. I didn't owe anyone an apology for wanting to live a life that was mine, and mine alone. I took some time for myself, clearing my head, focusing on what I wanted next. But every now and then, I'd glance at the tickets sitting on the kitchen counter, reminders of everything I'd left behind, and then I smiled, knowing that I was better off on my own. The days after everything happened felt surreal, like I was floating just above the ground, observing myself going through the motions. But in all honesty, I didn't mind it. It was the calm after the storm, the clarity I had been craving. I no longer felt like I was drowning in someone else's choices or struggling to keep afloat in a relationship that had been sinking for months. It had been a week since I handed him the ticket, the last tether I would ever have to him. Since that moment, there had been no contact, no desperate calls, no apologies that meant nothing. I had no interest in hearing any of it. I had done what I needed to do for me, and I'd walked away. It was late one evening when I finally decided to take the plane tickets and tear them in half. The sound of the paper ripping felt like the release I hadn't even realized I needed. The ticket to nowhere. Well, that was where my past belonged. Nowhere. I stood in front of the window, staring out at the city below. The streetlights blinked, the usual hum of activity pulsing in the distance, but all I could hear was the quiet beat of my own heart. I had spent so many years trying to please other people, trying to fit into roles I never truly wanted. I thought that loving someone meant sacrificing pieces of myself to make them happy. But now, I understood. True love starts with yourself. There was no going back to the woman I had been before. That woman, who was willing to forgive, willing to overlook the hurt, willing to believe in second chances. She was gone. What was left was a version of me who finally saw the truth. I wasn't here to fix anyone else's mistakes anymore. Not his, not Bella's, not anyone's. I put the torn pieces of the tickets in the trash and turned away from the window. My phone buzzed with a message. I checked it. Another text from him. I'm sorry. I want to make this right. Please. Can we talk? I felt nothing, not even a flicker of emotion. I didn't even bother to reply. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and headed out the door. The night air was crisp, cool against my skin. As I walked down the street, I realized how different everything felt now. I didn't need anyone else's validation. I didn't need anyone else to tell me what I was worth. I already knew. I found a little cafe tucked away on a quiet corner of the city, the kind of place I used to pass by, too busy to notice. The lights were soft inside, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. I took a seat by the window, the warmth of the cafe wrapping around me like a hug. The barista gave me a smile as I ordered my usual. As I sat there sipping my coffee and watching the world go by, I realized something. I was okay. No, more than okay. I was free. The weight of the past, of all those lies and betrayals, no longer had a hold on me. I had made my choice, and it was the right one. I wasn't broken. I was whole. The door to the cafe opened, and a man stepped in, glancing around for a seat. He caught my eye and gave a small nod of acknowledgement. It was a naive, innocent look, but it was enough to remind me that life was always moving forward, and I was moving with it. I smiled to myself. The future was waiting, and I was ready for it. As I finished my coffee and stood up to leave, I felt lighter than I had in months. I wasn't carrying any baggage, no past relationships, no unfinished business. Just me, standing on my own 2 feet, ready to take on whatever came next. No one was going to tell me what my story should be. It was mine to write, and I had only just begun.
Scene: a high-end restaurant. The setting is pristine, full of the soft clinking of silverware and hushed conversations. The kind of place that's designed for people to celebrate important milestones, like a graduation dinner. But as I sit there, barely listening to my parents rattle on about how proud they are of me, I can't shake the feeling that everything feels wrong. Sure, there's the usual ceremonial applause for my achievements, the fake smiles, the "you did," it, as that are supposed to make this moment feel like the pinnacle of everything I've worked for. But it's hollow. I stare at my reflection in the wine glass. My face looks fine, well manicured, put together, the way my mother always wanted. But inside, there's a storm brewing, a tidal wave of frustration and anger that's threatening to break free. You see, there's this thing about graduation that they don't tell you. It's not just about the future, the endless possibilities, the new beginnings. It's about looking at the people who raised you, the ones who are supposed to be your support system, and realizing they don't even see you for who you really are. They see who they want you to be. And today, I'm done pretending. I shift uncomfortably in my seat. My parents are blabbering on, again, about how, "We always knew you were capable of greatness, Natalie. Look at you, our little genius." Yeah, they're full of praise today. Full of pride, like they've somehow earned it. I nod along, letting their words wash over me. They want me to feel validated. They want me to bask in this moment, to bask in their praise. But as they smile at me, I can't help but feel a flicker of resentment. Resentment for all the years they made me feel like I wasn't enough. Not good enough, not strong enough, not perfect enough. I spent years trying to earn their approval. Years that were wrapped in silence, in manipulation, in guilt. And none of that was ever acknowledged, even as I pulled myself up, scraped together my self-worth from the broken bits they left behind. I glanced down at the table, trying to steady myself. I've been holding on to this moment, the one where everything would change, where I would finally stand up for myself. I've imagined it 1,000 times, what I would say, how they would react, and how I would finally feel free. Free from them. Free from their expectations. Free from the weight of their selfishness. My eyes flicker to the gift boxes sitting on the table, one in front of each parent. Simple, elegant, neatly wrapped in dark blue paper, tied with a perfect silver ribbon. A gesture of gratitude or so, they'll think. In a way, I guess they are gifts, but not the kind they're expecting. And that's the point. I can feel the adrenaline surging through me as I finally place my hands on the edges of the boxes. My heart is pounding so loud I can barely hear my dad talking about how much he sacrificed to give me everything I needed. I used to believe that. I used to believe I owed them for every sacrifice they made to make me who I am today. But who am I, really? Just an achievement they can point to, a project they worked on for years, a trophy, not a daughter, not someone who mattered, not someone with feelings that needed to be seen, acknowledged, and respected. The moment is almost here. I can feel it. They think I'm just grateful. They think this is some token of my appreciation for all they've done for me. But they don't know what's inside those boxes. They don't know what's coming. Scene: the dinner table. The dim light of the restaurant's chandelier reflects off the polished silverware, casting a faint glow on the gift boxes in front of each of my parents. The moment feels suspended in time, as though the entire world is holding its breath. I can hear my dad still talking, the sound of his voice rising with every word. He's caught up in his own version of the story, the one where everything he did was for me, for us. It's almost comical, the way he's framed his life like a perfect narrative. The perfect career, the perfect house, the perfect family. I used to buy into that. I used to believe that this was what mattered. The outward success, the performance. That all I had to do was keep my head down, achieve, and they would finally see me. I thought it would be enough. But no. Today, I'm done with that. It's time for them to see the real cost of their expectations. The price I've paid for everything they claimed I should be. I take a deep breath and push my chair back, the sound of it scraping across the floor somehow louder than I intended. My parents turn to me. They smile, expectantly. My mother's face lights up as she reaches for the gift box in front of her, unaware of the truth that's about to hit her. My dad's eyes are already scanning me, waiting for the next compliment, the next thank you. But I'm not here to thank them. Not this time. I slide the gift box closer to her. I've got something for you both, I say, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through me. My hands don't shake, not yet. But I can feel my heart pounding, a quiet rhythm that's only getting louder. Mom's fingers dance over the silver ribbon, and she smiles as she unties it. Oh, how thoughtful, she murmurs, already imagining something extravagant or sentimental inside. I watch her hands move slowly, her fingers delicate and precise. This is it. This is the moment when everything shifts. My father, ever the critic, glances at me sideways. What's this, Nat? Some sort of graduation gift for us? He chuckles lightly, thinking it's all part of the show. The way they always talk, always laugh like everything is just fine. Like their parenting, every flaw, every failure, every bit of emotional neglect doesn't have a price, that it doesn't leave scars. You could say that, I answer, and my tone shifts, just enough to make the air feel different. My parents stop for a moment, sensing something's off, but it's too late. They're already deep in the illusion of what they think this moment is. Mom opens the box fully and looks inside. Her face doesn't change at first. It's as if she's still waiting for the usual grand reveal. But then her eyes land on the sheets of paper, the invoices, the neatly organized stack of bills. The silence stretches. My dad leans forward, his brow furrowing in confusion. What's this? I watch her face as she pulls out the first invoice, the shock slowly spreading. Her hand trembles, just a little. I see it, but she hides it quickly. It's the same thing they always do, hide their real reactions behind a mask. She looks up at me. Natalie, what's going on? Why are you giving us this? I don't answer right away. I don't have to. The question hangs in the air, like an unspoken truth, one that's already been answered by the bold letters on the invoices. Unpaid therapy sessions. Sessions that have filled the gaps they left behind in their absence. Sessions where I tried to make sense of the way they treated me, the way they tried to shape me into someone I wasn't. I let the silence sit for a moment longer. The tension in the air is thick, suffocating even. My mother tries to cover her discomfort, but it's obvious. She doesn't know how to handle the truth when it's laid bare like this. I'm expensive, remember? I say, finally breaking. The silence. My voice softer than I expected, but still cutting through the tension. What's this supposed to mean, Natalie? My dad's voice is sharp now, defensive. He doesn't like being cornered. He doesn't like being forced to look at the cracks in the perfect narrative he spent years constructing. It means, I begin, my words carefully measured, that you always told me I was expensive, that I was a burden on you, but maybe you should see the real cost of what you put me through, what I've had to carry because of the way you raised me. Mom's expression falters. She opens another invoice, a new wave of realization washing over her. I can see it now. The doubt, the confusion, the guilt creeping in. It's a slow burn, but it's there. Are these really? She starts, but her voice trails off, lost in the enormity of the moment. They're mine. All the therapy I had to go through to unpick the damage you caused, to fix myself after years of trying to be what you wanted me to be. The words spill out like a dam breaking. Everything I've kept buried, everything I've kept hidden for years. This is where it all comes out. I don't stop myself. I won't stop. This is the price of your expectations. This is the cost of your neglect. You wanted me to be perfect, but you didn't see me. Not really. And I'm done pretending I don't see it. My dad's face is a mixture of disbelief and anger now. He stands up abruptly, slamming the gift box down onto the table. This is insane. You're going to pull this stunt at my dinner? His voice rises, getting louder, the control slipping from his grasp. But I don't flinch. I don't apologize. Not anymore. I'm not the one who made it a stunt, I say, my voice calm but cutting through the chaos. You did. You made me feel like I wasn't enough. And now, here's the receipt. The room is silent again, except for the low hum of the other diners. My parents are frozen in place, looking at the invoices, looking at me, looking at the reality they didn't. Want to see the reality that's been in front of them for so long but has never been acknowledged. And in that silence, I realize something. This isn't just about the money. It's about the cost of the emotional neglect. It's about the price of their expectations. And they're finally seeing it for what it is. Scene. The same dinner table. The air is thick, as if it's been charged with electricity. My dad's face is flushed, the kind of red that comes from a mix of anger and frustration. Mom, on the other hand, looks pale, almost sickly, like the life has been drained from her. The warmth of the restaurant feels distant, like we're in a different world now. A world where everything we've pretended to be has been shattered in a matter of minutes. The other diners are still talking, oblivious to the scene unfolding at our table. I hear the clink of silverware, the murmur of conversations, but it all feels like background noise now. My focus is on them, the two people who were supposed to guide me, support me, love me. But they've never really seen me. Not the way I needed them to. You've got to be kidding me, Natalie, my dad spits out, his voice sharp as broken glass. His hand grips the edge of the table, his knuckles white. You bring this up now? At your graduation dinner? Are you really going to ruin this moment for us? Ruin? I repeat, my voice surprisingly calm. I don't know where this composure is coming from, but it's there, steady and unwavering. This was never your moment, Dad. This was mine. And if you want to call this ruining it, fine. But this is my reality, the one you've ignored for so long. So yeah, I'm going to ruin the illusion. His jaw clenches. You're being completely unreasonable, he mutters, but it's not directed at me. It's the kind of muttering he's done his whole life, when he's trying to convince himself he's right, even when everyone around him knows he's not. Mom's voice breaks through the tension, her words hesitant, like she's walking on eggshells. Natalie, sweetie, why didn't you come to us earlier? Why wait until now? Why didn't you tell us you were hurting? We didn't know. Didn't know? I echo, not bothering to hide the disbelief in my tone. Of course you didn't. You were too busy with your perfect career to notice. Too busy making sure you had everything in place for yourselves. You never saw me, really saw me. You just saw what you wanted me to be. What you thought would make your lives easier. The words sting even as I say them, but they need to be said. They've never listened to the things I've tried to communicate. This is the only way to make them hear it. To show them that their version of love, their version of care, was always conditional, always transactional. You think I didn't try? Mom asks, her voice trembling now. You think I didn't want to be there for you? I look at her. She's trying to hold it together, but I can see the cracks forming. For once, I feel like she's the one who's being forced to face reality. The woman who always claimed to love me is now struggling to even find the words to defend herself. You wanted to be there, I say, my voice surprisingly soft. But you weren't. Not when it counted. Not when I needed you to be. Her eyes dart to the gift box in front of her, the invoices spilling out like an open wound. The physical evidence of everything I've tried to hide from them, even when they didn't deserve to know. I wonder if she's thinking about the times I came to her for help, only to be told I was too dramatic, too emotional, too much of a burden. The times I cried for attention and was told to just get over it. The times I needed validation, but it was never enough. Dad's voice cuts through the silence, louder now, almost desperate. I worked my ass off, Natalie, to provide for this family, to give you everything you needed. You think I didn't sacrifice for you? He stands up, pacing in tight, angry circles, his hands waving around like he's trying to force the words to make sense, trying to justify everything he's done. You think I'm ungrateful, but I'm not, I reply quietly. I'm just tired of pretending you're something you're not. I've spent my whole life trying to live up to your expectations, but every time I did, it was never enough. Never. I see his face twist. I can tell the truth is hurting him, but I don't care. For once, I'm not the one who's going to be hurt. I'm not going to let him manipulate me into believing I'm the one in the wrong. I don't owe you an apology, I say, finally meeting his eyes with a look that's equal parts angry and sorrowful. I've paid enough already. The room feels colder now. The clinking of silverware has stopped, the murmurs around us fading into an uncomfortable hush. I don't look around. I keep my eyes on them, the two people who should have been my greatest support, but were the ones who broke me in the first place. Mom looks down at the invoices, and for the first time, I see the tears welling in her eyes. She blinks, trying to fight them back, but they spill over, and her voice cracks. I didn't know, she whispers, almost pleading. I didn't know you felt this way. I stand up, taking a step back from the table. The dinner has become a mockery, a play. We're all stuck in. The roles we've been assigned don't fit anymore, and the curtain is falling. I'm not asking you to fix it, I say, my voice firm. I'm asking you to see it, to see me, for once, to really see me. Mom wipes her eyes, sniffling. My dad glares at me, unable to find a comeback. I don't know if it's because he's finally realized that this time, I'm not backing down, or if it's because he truly doesn't understand. But I don't wait for him to say anything else. I turn and walk away from the table, not looking. Back. I know the next steps will be messy, but I don't care. I'm done. This dinner, this moment, it's not mine to fix. It never was. Scene. The following day. Natalie's apartment. The silence of the apartment is almost suffocating. It's quieter than it's ever been, and that's saying something. I've always had the hum of city noise or the buzz of people around me. But today, the world feels oddly distant. It's been a whole day since the dinner, and my phone's been blowing up ever since. Messages from my parents, from people who've heard about what happened, from friends trying to check in on me. I haven't responded to a single one. I don't feel like talking. I don't want their apologies or their pity. They don't get to make this about their feelings anymore. I take a seat by the window and let my eyes wander to the view outside. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. The sky is that perfect shade of blue, but all I can feel is this heavy ache in my chest. It's a strange mixture of relief and emptiness, like I've pulled a bandage off a wound that's been festering for too long. It hurts, but there's no turning back now. I think about the look on their faces when they saw the invoices, especially the ones from the therapist I'd been seeing for the past 3 years. The way they went from anger to guilt to confusion in seconds. The moment they realized how much I had paid to unpick the damage they'd done, I had always thought I'd get to a point where I'd feel some sense of closure, that confronting them would somehow fix everything. But now, as I sit here alone, I realize that no amount of confrontation will ever heal those old wounds. I was never asking them to fix me. I wasn't asking them to be perfect parents. I was asking them to show up. And they couldn't. Not when it mattered. But this isn't just about them. It's about me, too. About the choices I've made for myself. About the woman I'm trying to become. I didn't expect them to change overnight, but I thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd see me. They don't. I pull up the text messages from Mom that I've ignored for hours. I stare at them for a long time, trying to find the words she's searching for. But it's all the same thing. Apologies, excuses, questions about why I didn't talk to them sooner. They're still playing the same game, still avoiding the real issue. Still making it about how they feel about what I've said, not about how I feel. I delete the messages without replying. I grab my phone and open the photo gallery. There's one picture that catches my eye. One from years ago, before everything got so messy. It's a family photo from a vacation, back when I still believed they cared, back when I thought they were proud of me. The kind of photo that people would post on social media with hashtags about family goals. I stop scrolling. The smile on my face is so fake. I was a different person then. I was pretending even then. I was desperate for their love, their approval. It feels like a lifetime ago. I hear the buzz of my phone again. This time, it's from a group chat with a few of my closest friends. The tone is casual, the usual banter, but I feel disconnected. They don't know. Not really. They've never seen me as this version of myself, the one who is finally starting to stop caring about what others think. I want to tell them everything, but I don't have the energy for it. Instead, I send a quick message. I'm fine. I just need some time. That's all I can offer right now. The truth is, I'm not fine. I'm far from it. But I don't need them to fix it. Not anymore. Scene, evening. Outside Natalie's apartment. It's strange, but I've never felt more alone and more free at the same time. I pull my coat tighter around me as I step outside. The cool air feels like a fresh start, a new beginning after the storm of yesterday. The city streets are buzzing with life, people coming and going, but for some reason I feel like an outsider. I'm standing in a world that's still moving, but I'm standing still. My thoughts wander back to that dinner. The way my dad looked at me, like I was the one who had betrayed him. The way my mom cried, but only for herself. I'm still angry. Maybe more so than I've ever been. But underneath that anger is something else. A deep, aching sadness. Sadness for the little girl I used to be. The one who didn't know any better. The one who thought if she just worked hard enough, proved herself enough, maybe, just maybe, they'd love her the way she needed to be loved. I walk down the street, passing, by the familiar shops, the coffee shops where I used to sit for hours, pretending to study, pretending that I had it all together, pretending that they loved me the way I deserved, that I mattered, but I don't need their love anymore, at least not in the way I once thought I did. I have my own, and maybe that's all I'll ever need. I stop at a corner, watching the cars, drive by the people laughing and talking in the distance, and for a moment, I just breathe. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I'm finally free. Scene, a week later. Natalie's apartment. It's been a week since the dinner, a week since I handed them the invoices, the receipts of all the therapy I've been paying for in secret, the cost of trying to fix myself after they broke me. A week of silence, mostly. A silence that's both deafening and peaceful. I've been trying to sort through the pieces of my life, the bits of me that got lost along the way, the ones I thought I'd never find again. It's hard to explain. The feeling, like I'm a puzzle, and I'm slowly, carefully putting myself back together. Not the version of myself that they wanted me to be, not the one I thought I had to be to earn their approval, but the real me, the one that's been buried under layers of expectations, disappointments, and resentments. My phone buzzes on the counter, pulling me out of my thoughts. I glance at it, half expecting it to be another message from my parents. They've been persistent, trying to reach me, trying to make me forgive them, trying to make this all about them. But this time, it's not a message from them. It's from Mia. Mia, my best friend. the one who's always known me better than I knew myself. She's the only one I've really confided in about everything that's happened. And she's been my lifeline through all of this. I open the message. Mia. I'm in the neighborhood. Want to grab coffee? I smile. Just the thing I need right now. A friend who doesn't expect me to be anything other than who I am in this moment. A friend who can see me as I am, without judgment, without trying to fix me. I type a quick response. Me. Yes, I need a break from all the noise. Scene. A cafe. We meet at our usual cafe, a little hole-in-the-wall spot with mismatched chairs, and the smell of fresh coffee in the air. It's one of those places where you feel comfortable just sitting in silence, as if time doesn't matter. Mia's already sitting at a table when I walk in, her usual warm smile lighting up her face when she sees me. Hey you, she says, standing up to hug me. How are you really doing? I sit down across from her, taking a deep breath before answering. I don't know. Better, I guess. I mean, I thought after I did it, after I gave them the invoices, that I'd feel like I'd won. But now, I just feel strange. It's not the relief I thought it would be. Mia nods, her gaze steady and understanding. You know, it's okay to feel that way. You're doing something most people would never have the guts to do. You're putting yourself first, Natalie. And that's something to be proud of, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. I sip my coffee, grateful for her words. I know, it's just hard. I spent so many years trying to be what they wanted me to be, trying to please them, thinking that if I just tried harder, I could fix everything. And now, I don't even know who I am without all that. It feels like I'm starting from scratch. Mia leans in, her voice soft but firm. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from a place of strength. You've already done the hardest part. You've broken free from them. You've taken back control. I let her words sink in. She's right. For the first time, I'm not holding myself back for anyone else. I'm not waiting for their approval, for their validation. I'm choosing myself. And maybe that's the most empowering thing I've ever done. Scene. Later that evening. Natalie's apartment. The night falls quietly around me. I sit at my kitchen table, papers spread out in front of me. It's strange, but I find a sense of peace in the stillness. The chaos of the past week has faded, and all that's left is this raw, real version of myself. The version that is no longer bound by the expectations of others. I pick up the phone and scroll through the messages from my parents again. They're still coming, still apologizing, still begging me to talk. But I don't feel the pull anymore. The weight of their words, the guilt they've tried to make me carry for years, it doesn't feel like it belongs to me anymore. I delete the messages, all of them. I realize that this is the moment. The moment I take control, not just of my life, but of my own narrative. They've had the power over my story for too long. But now it's mine to write. It's time to take the next step. To stop waiting for their approval, to stop waiting for their love. Because I don't need it anymore. I've found something stronger, something that's been inside me all along. Me scene, the following day. Natalie's apartment. The next morning, I wake up to an empty apartment. It's quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in a long time, I feel at ease. There's no one here to judge me, no one here to demand things from me. It's just me. And for once, I'm not afraid of that. I get dressed in something simple, something that feels like me, and walk out of my apartment. The world outside is waiting, as it always does. But today, I'm walking into it with a new sense of purpose, a new sense of self. I'm no longer the girl who lived in the shadow of her parents' expectations. I'm no longer the daughter who tried to earn love by being someone I wasn't. I'm Natalie, and for the first time, I'm proud of who I am. Scene, a month later, Natalie's apartment. It's been a month since I stood at that dinner table, handed them those gift boxes, and walked out of their lives, at least for now. A month of figuring out who I am without them. A month of not having to explain myself, not having to apologize for being me. It's strange how quickly the world starts to shift when you stop waiting for permission to exist. I'm sitting in my apartment now, looking out at the city from my window. The sun is setting, casting a soft orange glow over everything. I've always loved this time of day, when everything feels possible, when the world is a little quieter, a little gentler. It's a reminder that even in the middle of chaos, there's beauty. I pick up my phone and scroll through the messages from my parents again. This time, though, it's different. They're still there, but they don't have the same power over me that they once did. There are more apologies. More pleas for me to come back to forgive them. I've learned something important over the past month. Forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It doesn't mean accepting toxic behavior just because someone says they're sorry. Forgiveness is for me, not for them. It's about letting go of the hold they've had on me, about freeing myself from their expectations and manipulations. I don't need to forgive them for their sake. I need to forgive them for mine. I delete their messages again, and for the first time, I feel a sense of peace. It's not closure. I don't think I'll ever get the closure I thought I needed from them. But it's enough. It's enough to know that I'm moving forward. Scene: a week later. A coffee shop. I meet Mia at the same cafe we've been going to for years. She's already there, of course, always on time, always with a smile on her face. She's been a rock through all of this, even when I didn't ask for it. "You look different," she says, as I sit down across from her. "I do?" I ask, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, different in a good way. Like you've finally started living for yourself." I smile. It's true. I've started living for me. For the first time, I'm not carrying the weight of other people's expectations. I'm not trying to fix anyone. I'm not trying to be the person they want me to be. I'm just me. I take a deep breath, feeling the shift inside me. I think I finally am. I've been going to therapy for so long, trying to fix all the pieces of me that got broken. But I think I'm starting to see that I'm not broken. I was just wronged. And that's okay. I can heal from that. Mia nods, her expression warm. "You've always been strong, Natalie. It just took you a little while to realize it." I think I was just scared, I admit. Scared of being alone, scared of being rejected, scared of standing up for myself. But I'm not scared anymore. I'm okay with being alone. I'm okay with who I am. And I'm okay with the idea that I might not ever get what I thought I deserved from them. I'm enough as I am. Mia smiles, a proud glint in her eyes. "You are enough. More than enough." Scene: later, that evening, Natalie's apartment. I walk into my apartment later that evening, feeling lighter than I have in months. I've stopped trying to chase their approval, and it feels like the weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I stand in the middle of the living room for a moment, just breathing, taking it all in. I look around. This space, this apartment, it's mine. It's my sanctuary. No one can take that from me. And for the first time, I'm not looking at it like it's something temporary. I'm not waiting for someone to come in and tell me I've done it wrong. I'm not waiting for anyone anymore. Scene: a month after that, Natalie's graduation ceremony. It's the day of my graduation. The day I've worked so hard for. The day I finally get to stand on that stage and say, I did it. I'm nervous, yes. But it's not the kind of nervous I used to feel. It's not the kind of nervous that comes from trying to prove myself to anyone. It's just the excitement of knowing that I've earned this moment. For myself. I walk up to the stage, and for the first time, I don't think about my parents. I don't think about the expectations they placed on me. I don't think about all the times I felt like I was never enough. I just think about how far I've come. When I cross the stage and receive my diploma, I don't feel the weight of their disappointment. I feel free. Scene: that evening, graduation dinner. The dinner is set. I'm sitting at the table with Mia and a few of my friends from university. It's quieter than the last dinner I had with my parents, but that's okay. I don't need the drama, the tension, the guilt. I raise my glass in a toast. To new beginnings, I say, smiling at Mia. To finally living for ourselves. Everyone raises their glasses. It's a simple toast, but it's everything I've been fighting for. And as I sit back, feeling the warmth of the room around me, I realize something important. The world doesn't stop because I walk away from toxic people. It doesn't collapse. When I stop trying to earn approval from the ones who never gave me what I needed. In fact, it only gets better. Because when you stop waiting for permission to live, you realize that you've been free all along.
I had already mentally prepared for this. The dinner, the fake smiles, the way my father's attention would inevitably drift to my brother, like it always does. I'd graduated today, finally. My degree, my years of hard work. And yet, here I was, already fading into the background of a celebration that wasn't even for me. Not truly. I parked my car outside our house, the familiar brick walls, the white trim, all of it just like I'd left it. The same house that had witnessed years of me trying to carve out a space for myself, only for my father to use that same space to hang my brother's newest achievement like a trophy on the wall. Typical. I grabbed my bag, glanced at the front of the house one more time, and took a deep breath. It wasn't a deep breath of excitement, it was more of a resignation, one that came from years of this. I wasn't even sure why I was still trying to expect anything different. The door opened before I even had a chance to knock. My mum greeted me with a hug, as always. Her smile was warm, but it didn't touch her eyes. She was probably too caught up in whatever my brother had just said to keep her focus. "Hi, love. You look so beautiful," she said, adjusting the collar of my jacket, as though I could somehow be made more perfect. "Thanks," I muttered, brushing past her to the dining room. She always said that, the same words every time, as if her attempts to show affection were enough to make up for the rest. They never were. As I stepped into the room, I was greeted by the usual setup. My father at the head of the table, my brother at the other end, his face lighting up as though he were the guest of honor at some gala event. The moment I entered, my father turned to me, his face half smiling but distracted. I could already see the shift in his attention. "Ah, there she is, the graduate," he said, his voice booming in the way it always did when he wanted to make a statement. I tried not to wince. His eyes barely met mine before they flicked back to my brother, whose own face was now flush with pride. They'd probably already had their moment about me, my graduation, my accomplishments, before I even walked in. My father's words, though meant to be congratulatory, felt like an afterthought. "You've done well," he said to me briefly, before he turned back to the center of attention. His hand moved to my brother's shoulder. "But look at this. Jake's been offered a position with Brixham Consulting. This is what we've been working towards for years." I could feel my chest tighten, but I didn't let it show. I forced a smile and nodded as I took my seat. The one next to my brother, of course. The one that no one seemed to remember was mine. The dinner went on with all the usual small talk, but I barely heard any of it. My thoughts were too loud. "Jake's going places," my father said again, and my brother grinned, his eyes scanning the table for approval. I watched my father speak, his voice like a drum, vibrating with the pride of a man who had poured all his expectations into one child, one future, one path. Jake had always been the one to carry the weight of my father's vision, the firstborn, the perfect child, the one who never faltered, and then there was me, the one who tried, worked, strived to match his success, but somehow always felt invisible. I couldn't even remember the last time my father had spoken about my achievements for more than a few seconds. Was it when I got into university? When I graduated? No one cared about that anymore. I could feel my face start to flush with frustration. I hadn't even wanted a big dinner. I hadn't wanted their praise, their fake excitement. But at least I thought they'd notice me. They'd see me. At least once. The silence that followed the end of my father's praise for Jake was palpable, but only to me. It was clear that no one else noticed it. The awkward space where recognition for my graduation should have been. I shifted in my seat, trying to fight back the feeling of being small. I wanted to say something, anything, but what was the point? Would they even hear me? I picked up my glass of wine and took a long sip, letting the dry taste settle on my tongue. The conversation flowed around me, but I felt like I was underwater. The voices faded into a dull hum. I wasn't sure if they realized how badly this felt, or if they even cared. But I did. I cared. As the night stretched on, I couldn't shake the feeling of being an afterthought. My father and brother continued to bask in the glow of Jake's new job. The conversation was littered with talk of his upcoming move to the city, his success, his plans. Everything was always about him. I watched my mother, who seemed happy enough, but I could see the tension in the way she kept looking at me. It was like she could feel the space between us, but she didn't know how to close it. She had always been the one to make sure everything looked perfect, as though her love for us could be measured in neat rows of plates and glasses. I've never had to deal with the messy parts, the disappointment in my eyes that I was sure she could see but never acknowledged. "So, what's next for you, darling?" my father finally asked, turning to me after another round of congratulating Jake. I almost choked on my wine. My father's sudden attention caught me off guard. It was like he'd remembered I was there, as though I'd been waiting patiently, in the shadows for my turn. "Well, I began, but the words felt heavy in my mouth. "I'm actually planning to look for a job soon. I've already got a few interviews lined up, but I wanted to take some time to, breathe for a bit. Enjoy my—" Right, my father interrupted. "That's good. Very good. You should relax a bit, but don't wait too long. The world won't wait for you, you know." I bit my lip, my grip tightening on my wine glass. Of course he would say that. Of course I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't moving fast enough. My degree, my hard work, it was just something to get over with, something to check off the list. Jake, on the other hand, had been handed a clear path. He had the job, the title, the respect. Everything I'd worked for felt irrelevant next to his success. And my father's unwavering attention to him, his every move, his every triumph, only solidified that fact. I could feel the weight of my own disappointment starting to press against my ribs, making it harder to breathe. This was supposed to be my moment. This was supposed to be my chance to feel seen. But instead, I was drowning in their neglect. It was like I was a ghost at my own celebration. "So, Jake, what's your next step? Will you be staying in the city for long?" my mother asked, clearly wanting to shift the focus again. I wanted to scream. I glanced at my brother, who was too busy texting to notice. The way he always acted like he had somewhere better to be, as though this dinner was just a brief stop on his path to greatness. This wasn't just about a job. It wasn't even about my graduation. This was about my entire life. A life spent trying to prove that I mattered, trying to fit into a mold that had never been mine. My father's praise for Jake didn't stop. It was one thing after another. "He's always been so driven," my father said, and I felt the sting of the comparison. Always had a clear direction. I wanted to interrupt, to tell him that I'd been driven too, that I'd put in hours, sacrificed weekends, missed family holidays to get to this point. But no one cared. It wouldn't make a difference. It never had. "I'm proud of you, son," my father said, and it hit me harder than I expected. My throat tightened. The words weren't meant for me, but they landed on me just the same. I didn't know if I wanted to cry or laugh, but either way, I felt something crack inside me. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I had worked for this. I had earned my degree, my place at this table, and yet here I was, invisible. No one seemed to care. I lifted my glass, the edges of my fingers cold against the stem. I had no idea why I was still sitting here, but something inside me told me I needed to hold on to this moment, to remember it, to remember how small I felt. "Dad," I finally said, my voice quieter than I wanted it to be, "are we really not going to talk about my graduation?" The room went silent. My father's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, and that small moment was enough to make my heart race. He looked at me, really looked at me, as if I'd just spoken a language he couldn't understand. Of course, he said, his voice stiff. "You did well. Very well. We're all very proud of you, sweetheart." But his words didn't feel like pride. They felt like a box checked off, something that needed to be said because it was the polite thing to do. And I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up abruptly, the clink of my chair scraping against the floor, making the tension palpable. Everyone's eyes shifted to me, confused. My heart was pounding, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. "Cheers," I muttered, lifting my glass to the room. My father, my brother, my mother, all staring at me in stunned silence. I smiled, but it was tight, forced. To being invisible. Cheers. And with that, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving my diploma on the table behind me, like a message I wasn't sure anyone would understand. The night air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside. I hadn't thought about where I was going, just away from the suffocating walls of that house, away from the voices that felt like they had no space for me. I walked, the gravel crunching, beneath my shoes, my heart pounding in my chest. I had no destination in mind. All I knew was that I couldn't stay there, not after what had happened. "Dad," I had said, barely above a whisper, and yet, somehow, the weight of those 2 words seemed to have reached him. He had looked at me, his face confused, his lips tight, but there had been something more there, something I hadn't expected. It wasn't just anger, it was disappointment. Or maybe it was something worse. A recognition that I wasn't who he wanted me to be, but that wasn't the worst of it. No, the worst part had been the silence that followed my departure. I could almost hear the echo of my absence hanging in the air. I could picture them all in there. My family, my parents especially, looking at each other, unsure of what to say. And me? I felt like I had just torn open a wound, and now there was no going back. I stopped walking, leaning against a lamppost. The city was quiet at this hour, and I found myself wondering what I was doing. What did it matter? My family had never truly seen me. I had spent my entire life trying to prove I existed, trying to get someone to notice me for once. But they didn't care. They'd never cared. Not the way they cared about Jake and his perfect life. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The cool night air was a sharp contrast to the heat in my chest, but it wasn't enough to calm the storm inside me. I fished out my phone, almost absent-mindedly scrolling through messages. There were a few notifications from friends congratulating me on my graduation, a couple from distant relatives who didn't really know me but felt obligated to send a message. And then there was a text from Jake. "Hey, what was that about?" I stared at the screen. The audacity. The fact that he was asking me what that was about made me want to throw my phone into the street. I tapped out a reply, my fingers quick and sharp. "You're really asking me that?" The reply came back in seconds. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Dad was pissed too. I laughed, though it was bitter, sharp, and ugly. Of course my father was pissed. He always was, whenever anything didn't go according to plan. And Jake? Well, of course he didn't understand. He never did. I hit send and shoved the phone back into my pocket. I wasn't in the mood for this, for any of it, but a part of me knew that I had to go back. I couldn't just leave things like this, no matter how much I wanted to. My footsteps felt heavy as I walked back to the house, the sounds of the city, distant but comforting. I couldn't decide if I was angry or tired or just numb. But when I finally reached the door, I hesitated before I stepped inside. The kitchen light was on. I could hear voices coming from the other room. My father's low murmur, my mother's sharp tone. They were talking, but I couldn't make out the words. All I could hear was the silence I had left behind, the quiet that had settled in my absence. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped back into the house. The moment I entered, the conversation stopped. They were all staring at me. My father, sitting at the head of the table, his face unreadable. Jake, leaning against the counter, eyes flicking between me and the others. My mother, her arms folded, looking like she was waiting for me to apologize. I stood there for a moment, just breathing, trying to gather the pieces of myself. "So," my father said, his voice cool and distant, "have you come back to your senses?" I swallowed hard. The words stung more than I'd expected, but I wasn't about to back down. Not now. "No," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. I came back because I have a few things to say. I could feel the tension in the room thickening as I walked further in, my footsteps purposeful. I didn't leave because of some silly tantrum. I left because you don't see me, Dad. Not really. Not like you see Jake. Jake shifted uncomfortably, but I kept my eyes on my father. He wasn't going to interrupt me this time. Not when I had something to say. You've always been proud of Jake, and that's fine. He deserves it. But you've always made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like my achievements didn't matter. I spent so much of my life trying to get you to notice me, to be proud of me, and it never happened. Not once. My father opened his mouth, but I raised my hand to stop him. Don't. Just don't. You've had your chance, and I'm done waiting for you to see me. There was a long pause, and I could hear my heart thumping in my chest. My mother shifted uncomfortably, but my father didn't say a word. He just stared at me like he couldn't understand the words I was speaking. Is that it? He finally asked, his voice cold, distant. I nodded. Yeah, that's it. And with that, I turned to leave again. But this time, something felt different. I wasn't just walking away. I was walking towards something. Maybe I hadn't figured out exactly what that was yet. But I was done waiting for them to tell me who I should be. I grabbed my coat and left again, my heart lighter but my mind buzzing, with the weight of the truth I had finally spoken. I didn't go back inside that night. I couldn't. I walked for what felt like hours, the cold air nipping at my skin, the city lights flickering overhead like stars in a sky that wasn't mine to reach. It wasn't just about the dinner, or the toast, or the silence after I left. It was about something deeper, something I hadn't been able to face until now. The next morning, I didn't get any calls. No messages from my mother asking where I was, no texts from Jake, even though I knew he would have been the first one to reach out, worried about the awkwardness I had caused. Nothing. And that's when I realized I wasn't the one who had broken anything. They'd been the ones who had built up this facade, this perfect little picture of what the family was supposed to look like. And all it had taken was a few words from me to shatter it, to show them that I wasn't part of their neat little narrative, that I didn't fit into the roles they had made for me. So I kept walking, and as I walked, I started to wonder, what would it feel like to just keep going? To leave them all behind and finally live my own life? I found myself sitting in a park, the chill of the morning air cutting through my jacket. The benches were mostly empty, save for a couple of joggers who sped past, their breath visible in the cold. The city around me felt quieter today. Maybe it was the stillness inside me, or maybe it was just that for the first time in ages, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. It was almost like a breath I hadn't realized I had been holding, a release. I pulled out my phone again, checking my messages for the first time since I had left the house. There was still nothing from my parents, nothing from Jake either. I had expected it, the silence, but it didn't make it sting any less. I was used to being the one to patch things up, to smooth over the awkwardness, to make everyone feel better, but not this time. Not this time. I typed a quick message to my best friend, Emma. She had been the one person who had always seen me for who I really was, even when I didn't know who that was. The message was short. I think I'm done pretending, Em. I'm done trying to make them happy. Her reply came almost instantly. You're not their project, Nat. You never were. I stared at the screen for a moment, letting the words sink in. It was true. I had spent so long trying to fit into their world that I had forgotten who I was. Forgotten what I wanted. All this time, I'd been living for their approval. But now it felt like I was finally waking up. I felt a small smile tug at the corner of my mouth. I was still me, just a version of myself I had been too afraid to embrace. The next few days passed in a haze. I went back to work, I ran errands, I talked to a few friends. Life went on, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something inside me had shifted. I had finally started to see myself, really see myself, in a way I never had before. Then came the phone call. It was my mother, calling me for the first time since the dinner. I hadn't expected it. After everything, I thought she would have let the silence linger. But no. The familiar ringtone blared in my pocket, and my stomach twisted into a knot. I debated not answering it. I could let it go to voicemail, keep the distance between us. But then I remembered what I had just told Emma about not pretending anymore, about not letting them dictate my worth. So I answered. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice steady. There was a long pause on the other end. "Natalie," her voice was softer than I had expected. "You left the dinner and, well, we need to talk." I almost laughed. Talk? What could we possibly have to talk about that hadn't already been said? But I kept my tone neutral. "I'm listening." Her sigh was audible. "It's not just about the dinner, Nat. It's about everything. We've been distant, and I know that, but you've always been so dramatic about things. Your father and I we didn't know how to handle it. You have to understand that we were trying to do what was best for you." I felt my anger rise again, but I held it back. Best for me? By ignoring my achievements? By always putting Jake's success on a pedestal while I stood in the shadows? That's what was best for me? Natalie, we didn't mean to make you feel like that. You know that. I closed my eyes, letting the words wash over me. My mother wasn't really apologizing. She wasn't acknowledging the real problem. She was just trying to fix it in her own way, in the way that suited her. "I need you to listen to me, Mum," I said, my voice firm now. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm not asking for anything. But I need you to understand that I'm not going to be the invisible one anymore. I've spent my whole life waiting for your approval, and I can't do that anymore." There was silence on the other end, and I let it linger. "I'm not asking for anything either," I added quietly. Just for you to see me, see who I am." And with that, I ended the call. I didn't wait for her to respond. She didn't need to. The conversation was over. For me, anyway. I didn't have all the answers, but I was starting to feel like I was closer to finding them. I'd like to say that everything magically resolved itself after that phone call, but that would be a lie. The truth is, it got messier before it got better. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind. There were still those odd moments, when I'd receive a text from Mum or a voicemail from Dad, each one a half-hearted attempt at reconciliation. But something had shifted. I wasn't waiting for them to see me anymore. I wasn't holding my breath, hoping they'd finally understand. I knew deep down that they might never understand, and that was okay. The real work had started with me. I had spent so many years trapped in their expectations, trying to fit into roles they'd assigned me, that I hadn't realized how much of myself I had buried just to keep the peace. That was what my degree had been, wasn't it? A way of gaining approval. A way of showing them I was worthy of recognition, of love, of everything I had hoped they would give me. But now, it was just a piece of paper to me. A reminder that I had done this for myself, and that it was up to me whether I wanted them to share in that or not. I had been walking around in a fog, believing that without their approval, I'd be lost. But the truth was, I'd never been lost. I had just been blinded by the idea that their love and recognition were the only things that could validate me. It wasn't until I stopped chasing that approval that I began to realize how much power I had. The power of choice. One night, after a long shift at the cafe, I sat down with a cup of tea and my laptop. It was time to make some decisions. Real decisions. The kind that would reshape my future. I started with a simple list, writing out all the things I had always wanted to do, but never had the guts to try. Travel. Write. Start my own business. It didn't matter how crazy or far-fetched the ideas seemed. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel afraid of them. The list grew longer and longer, each item more exciting than the last. And as I wrote, I could feel the weight of the past few weeks lifting off me. I wasn't bound by anyone's expectations anymore. I was free. The next morning, I called Emma. I needed her more than ever. She was the one person who had never judged me, who had always told me to go for what I wanted even when I was too scared to do it. I'm doing it. I'm going to start something new. Something just for me, I told her, the words tumbling out before I could even think about them. She didn't hesitate. About time. What's the plan? And for the first time, I didn't have to overthink it. I'm going to start my own freelance writing business. I've got enough experience. I've been hiding behind this job for too long. She laughed, and I could hear the smile in her voice. You're going to crush it. I know you will. It felt real. It felt possible. But even with all the excitement bubbling inside me, there was still a nagging thought in the back of my mind. I hadn't seen my family since that dinner. They hadn't tried to contact me again. And part of me wondered if they ever would. They'd never been the ones to encourage me to chase my dreams. They'd always been so focused on their own lives that mine seemed to slip under their radar. But this time, I wasn't waiting for them. I wasn't going to sit by and beg for their approval, so I made the decision. I called Dad. I wasn't sure what I expected from the conversation, but I knew it was time to make a clean break. To tell them that I was moving on. Hi, Dad, I said when he picked up. My heart was pounding, but I didn't let it show. I've made some decisions. I'm starting my own business. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I'm ready to go for it. He was quiet on the other end, the pause stretching out. That's great, Nat. Really? I'm proud of you. I couldn't help but smile at the unexpected warmth in his voice. It wasn't the kind of validation I had been waiting for all these years, but it was enough. Thanks, Dad. I just wanted to let you know. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. I understand, he said. And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. We talked for a few more minutes, and then I hung up. There was no grand reconciliation, no emotional breakthrough. But there didn't need to be. I had let go. I had taken back my power. And that, for me, was enough. I wasn't invisible anymore. The day of the phone call was the turning point, the moment I'd crossed over to the other side. I felt lighter somehow, like a burden I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying had finally been lifted. But of course, the real work had only just begun. Starting my freelance writing business wasn't going to be easy. I had no delusions about that. The world didn't just open its arms and say, "Welcome, entrepreneur." But for the first time, I felt ready. Ready to dive in, ready to work hard and build something for myself, not for anyone else's approval. Didn't rush into it. I took my time, setting up a website, finding my niche, researching how to find clients. I did it all from scratch, and with every task I crossed off my list, I felt more and more confident. It wasn't about how many clients I landed right away, or how successful I seemed to others. It was about me proving to myself that I was capable, that I could do this. But even as I was immersed in the excitement of my new venture, I couldn't help but think back to that family dinner, to the look on Dad's face when he toasted to my brother's new job, completely oblivious to the years of sacrifice and hard work I had poured into my degree, to the emptiness I felt in that moment, realizing just how much of myself I had given up in the pursuit of their approval. It's funny, really, how much we are willing to sacrifice for the people we love, only to realize that sometimes they don't even notice. They don't notice until you stop giving, until you stop waiting. And I realized something that night, something important. I didn't need them to notice. I didn't need them to see my worth. I had spent so long trying to fit into the image they had of me. But what if that wasn't who I was at all? What if the person I'd been trying so hard to be wasn't even the person I was meant to become? That's when it clicked. My graduation wasn't about them. It was about me. It wasn't a moment to share with my family or seek their validation. It was a moment for me to acknowledge my own strength, my own hard work, and my own growth. And maybe they would never see it. Maybe they would never understand why I had made the decisions I had. But that was okay, because for the first time, I didn't need them to. I looked at my diploma again, the one I had left on the dinner table that night. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It wasn't just a symbol of academic achievement. It was a symbol of me, of my journey, of my refusal to be invisible anymore. I was doing this for myself, and that was enough. As the days turned into weeks, the feelings of invisibility slowly started to fade. There were moments, of course, times when I missed the idea of family, dinners, when I wished I could share my triumphs with people who were supposed to care. But I knew that the life I was building now, on my terms, was more important than the comfort of staying hidden. I wasn't invisible anymore, and that was my victory. One evening, as I sat in front of my laptop, a message from Emma popped up on the screen. She had forwarded me an email from a client who was interested in working with me. I felt that familiar rush of excitement, the one I hadn't felt in years, the one that came with taking ownership of my life, of my choices. I clicked open the email, my fingers trembling slightly as I read the details. They wanted to hire me for a writing project. Something big, something that could open doors. I smiled to myself. I could do this. I was doing this. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. I was moving on. I closed the laptop, grabbed my coat, and stepped out into the crisp evening air. The city was alive with the hum of traffic, the sound of people rushing to and from their destinations. I walked with purpose, knowing that I had a place here, that I had a future ahead of me, one that I was building on my own. And that's when it hit me. It didn't matter who toasted to me or who ignored me. It didn't matter who had hurt me or who had failed to see me, because I saw me, and that was all I needed.